You are too kind, as usual, and thank you very much for that. Also, thanks for the warm welcome. This is a great opportunity for me. I was able to speak to the Exploring Leadership 205 class last semester, and it was so much fun, actually two of them. And then Saturday at the Leadership Summit, we had a bunch of fun and productive fun, I like to call it, with these Jenga blocks and exercise. So today we're going to kind of provoke you and make you read a little bit and reflect and select and then construct something. And we're going to talk about this concept about heart-led leadership. But just a quick couple pieces of information on my background. So my daughter actually goes to school here. I've got 3 kids, all in college. So I like to think I'm in tune with the college kids. I better be, right? Or I'm being a bad dad. And she's a freshman studying business. And she was actually at the Leadership Summit in my session and didn't heckle me, thank goodness, and also supported me, so she's super cool. And I'm blessed in that regard. So I had a really interesting career over many years and was lucky enough to be thrust into leadership very early in my career. And I went to school at the University of Arizona. I studied business. My first job out of college was with a really neat company. I wanted to live in Denver. Denver was my spot. Welcome. Denver was my spot I wanted to live in, and I got an amazing position at a manufacturing company that built disk drives. And my first job, I had 23 people working for me. I was 22 years old. They were building the disk drives, components of the disk drives in an assembly fashion. Production quantity was really important. Quality was really important. And I got thrust into this heart-led leadership concept and philosophy very early in my career, and I'm going to tell you how that happened in a second. Then I moved on to an engineering capacity at Texas Instruments. Then I transitioned into software and got into sales and marketing from there. Was very fortunate to work for a really big software company, and then a very small one, and then we grew the small one to become really big. The stock exploded, and a lot of people made a bunch of money. The clients loved our software a lot. IBM ended up buying the company for almost $1 billion, but it allowed me to retire really early. And then when you retire young and you have a bunch of energy, what are you going to do? Hopefully you're going to give back and help some people along the way. And this is one of the things that I do, and a bunch of other philanthropic fun stuff too. So I'm like beyond blessed and super blessed today that I get to talk to you guys and see this leadership class. And I'm so happy to build this relationship with Dr. Lisa Gates. You guys know you have a gem, a professor here. I mean, this is just, because I've met a lot of professors, I've met a lot of business leaders over time. You're totally blessed, totally lucky to have her. And this leadership minor is absolutely amazing in my book as well. So if you're considering it, I urge you to further consider it. If you're committed to it, great decision. Even if you take a few of the classes and then put that on your resume, which we'll get to in a minute, I recommend that as well. So when I told you that I started and kind of got thrust into this whole concept of and philosophy of heart-led leadership, it was a tricky situation when I first started working as the young graduate, and I had that group of people working for me. I was introduced to one of the gentlemen on my team, and his name was Gene. We had a lot of women that worked in the manufacturing line, and we had computer-aided manufacturing equipment. And one of the ladies said, there's one person on your name named Gene, and he's kind of fragile right now. He's actually like in a really dark spot, like kind of spiraling dark spot. And I'm a young new leader, and I'm leaning forward like, holy moly. And to come to find out, Gene did have a tough personal life. He was, I think, 24, 25 years old. He was new to the company. He was part of, on his, we called probationary period. So you started in your first 90 days, you were a full-time employee, but on probation, and then after a temporary employee, and then after 90 days, if you were successful, you became a full-time permanent employee. So he was about halfway through that cycle, and he's in a really tough spot. And Mike, if he doesn't make it on this job, I mean, this is really serious. And I'm taken back, and our goal is that we had to produce a ton of pieces to go into the disk drives. It had to be a lot of production, high quantity, and high quality. That was like our big focus. So this challenge came upon me that, the person, the people, are also super key components to this success of this department and the success of me being a manager and a leader. So I realized that I needed to embrace this challenge, lean in, and work closely with Gene, not just as an employee who needed to produce a certain amount of product every day to a certain level of quality, but as a human. And as heart-led leaders, you'll learn about how important it is to respect people, how to be transparent, how important it is to be authentic. And then when you deliver this type of approach to your leadership style and philosophy, amazing things happen. The entire team's performance can raise up. People will run through doors, through fire for you, for the team. When this type of approach, and we'll get into the detail of what it takes to become a heart-led leader. But I'm going to talk about, it's really a journey, but it's an interesting journey. So to become a heart-led leader, it's really an 18-inch journey from your head to your heart. The journey and being a heart-led leader will lead to a lifetime of benefits. But it starts with a couple questions, like, who are you? Who do you want to become? How do you want to be remembered? And what is your leadership philosophy? So the good news is, if you don't have a leadership philosophy today, that's totally okay. Totally okay. A matter of fact, kind of a fun fact, is many leaders do not have a leadership philosophy, at least one that they can name or describe specifically. So I hope to change that. I hope you choose to be a heart-led leader. And that's what we're going to talk about it today, and we're going to do a cool exercise, we're going to do some reflection, and then you'll determine in the beginning of your leadership path what type of philosophy and approach you want to take. And hopefully you'll choose to be a heart-led leader, because there's all sorts of great benefits. So we're going to, that's a pretty cool quote, by the way, from a SDSU student. Oh, I didn't do my proper introduction to that. My pronouns are he, him. This is a cool slide that Dr. Gates created. And so this is kind of what we're going to do in terms of the day, right? So we're going to help you further develop your value system. We're going to hear some of the success stories of what heart-led leadership, how it can transform, how I was just talking about how it can raise the performance up of the entire department or the entire team that you're running. And then we can learn the importance of leaning in. So we're going to talk about this word hungry. With the Leadership 205 classes that I talked to before, we talked about these things called 4 H's: heart, hunger, humility, and hustle. And hunger is really the concept to become more valuable by leaning into challenges, leaning into awkwardness, leaning into new cultures, leading into your econ class where you're learning about price equilibrium and some other crazy, difficult terms. And it's how being hungry, one of the 4 H's, can help you become even more valuable. So as we learn about heart-led leadership and about these key character traits that are associated with it, you will need to lean in. So this is kind of what we're going to do today. We're going to do our exercise, where you're going to read this cool little description of 25 character traits. And we're going to ask you to select the top 5 that best fit you today or your future self, that best reflect you. So it's going to be a little bit hard because some overlap, that you might like them all. We're going to make you narrow it down to 5 for a good reason. And then you're going to build a pyramid that is basically the foundation of heart-led leadership philosophy is character traits. So character traits can be defined as an individual personal attribute or quality. And that ties in to values. And a great 15-word definition for values is a person's standard of behavior, a person's judgment as to what's important in life. You hear this word values all the time, right? Oh, she's got great values. Oh, his values are shaky. So for a couple of years, I was like, what is the real cool definition of values? It's really a person's standard of behavior and your judgment of what's important to you in life. And those values get tested almost like every weekend, every day. It's like as you crystallize them today and throughout your career, they're really they provide direction in life. Think of your values as the assistant to your decision making. And underneath or overarching all of that is really your leadership philosophy or your belief system. Right? So when we talk about heart-led leadership as a philosophy or a belief system, think of that as the overarching umbrella. Underneath it, it's made up of character traits that you embrace, select, work on, get better at, tied in with your value system, your decision-making system that reflects your standard of behavior, what's important to you. And that really encompasses your philosophy, what you're going forward, your approach, your belief system as you're leading people. Now, you may sit here today and you're like, I'm not leading really anything, or I never really have. Some of you might be like right now. You may have a club you're leading, a team you're leading, a work shift you're leading. So you're going to be leaders, I know that for sure, in some capacity. Whether it's in the community, whether it's regional, whether it's international, but you're in this class and you're going to be leaders, so why not take one of the most important first steps is start crystallizing and establishing your leadership philosophy. No time like right now. So this word heart is kind of interesting, right? So we use it a lot, and it's powerful. I love that when people refer to it as the seat of wisdom. So in that first job, it's not all about analytics and production numbers and quality, and as you manage and you lead data, information, the mind-based leadership and what's going through from a performance metrics standpoint is important, but so also is your heart and the way you are approaching things. So, let's see, we're doing pretty good on time, and this is going to be kind of fun and neat. And if I forgot anything so far, Dr. Gates? Okay, good. She keeps me honest and on my toes. And so what we're going to do now is so I think electronically, right? Some of you, or everybody does, that you had your QR code you scanned, and then there's 25 two-sentence definitions. They're pretty good definitions. I'm really proud of these definitions. I researched it, tweaked it, reviewed it with Dr. Gates, and it's like a definition of courage or courageousness. And then you'll read it and you'll say, that's one of my top 5. That's one of the character traits that I currently reflect or want to reflect in my future self that I think is important to the foundation of my leadership philosophy. Does that make sense? So now we're going to go through that, and then if you don't mind, do we have, these are extra? Here? Okay. So then if you don't mind, at the end, take your 5 and put them in the blocks right here. And then we're going to have them take a photo of that. Okay. Oh, yeah. All right, we got to get your pyramid going. Okay. So let's do a little reading and reflection and selection. And then, before we start, let's do something kind of fun. Let's do this. Let's have somebody pull out one of these Jenga blocks. God, I had so much fun with this with my kids. This was like focus group tested with all those 3 college kids. Let's see. Can you come up and pull out one of these blocks? And I have a prize for you if you're successful, yes. Or even if you fail, you get a prize. So don't worry. And by the way, we're going to take it down in a second anyway. So, and it happens to do with Starbucks so no pressure. So you know how to kind of like slide one out maybe? You got to pick one and then kind of like push it a little bit. No pressure. Oh my, nice work. Round of applause there. 31 people watching. Here's a Starbucks card just for you. Woo-hoo. And forgiveness too. That was like a really good selection also. So, whew. All right, so you got to regroup now, and you got to read your document, pick your 5, and then we'll have some other cool potential prizes and interaction going forward. So take. All right, thank you for doing that. It's Monday early afternoon. You have to read multiple sentences, pages, reflect, select. Thank you for doing all of that. And it's a difficult process because there's some overlap, as I said, but it's also a chance to really try to ask those questions. Who am I? Who do I want to become? How do I want to be remembered? So one of the keys, the secret sauce to being a great leader is that you're not only going to ask those questions like today, and you're kind of forced into it, but you're going to ask those questions in the future. Like I'm still asking myself those questions just to stay as sharp on my game as I can. And if you think you've got it and you stop asking, and I know my philosophy and I don't need anything more from here, and you're one of those leaders, you're probably not going to be as successful as you want to be because you'll get stagnant, complacent. You'll think you have answers before the problem's even there, and it's just not healthy. Okay. So as you develop your strengths and you develop your philosophy and your value systems, reflect on these critical character traits, and then I mentioned something in the Saturday summit that if you were asking like how, we're talking a lot about what we need to do. We don't have time really to talk about how to become even more authentic, or maybe more consistently honest, or integrity. How do I have integrity all the time? We don't have time really today, maybe I'll come back sometime, but there's a variety of resources at your disposal. For instance, YouTube, TED Talks, articles, books, mentors. And I say that plural because it's hard to find one mentor that can do everything for you. Peer groups. I mean, these are all resources. Like you want to have more courage. Like these are your top 5 that you feel reflect you. But in reality, as my daughter who's graduating from another school as a senior, she said, when we did this over winter break, she said, boy, it takes a lot to be a good person, Dad. And I'm like, oh, maybe that's why she's graduating. I don't know, but it's true. I mean, if you really want to be the ultimate great leader, you embrace all of these. We kind of force you to pick 5 today. It might even be fun to go back someday, maybe without me here, and you say, hey, let's pick 5 more or 12 more. And like, what's really important to me? What do I really believe in? And you got to live it. You can't just be book smart, right? It's like action. I don't want you guys to be able to recite the 15-word definition for values and then not embrace it, not live it, don't live it out. So now what we're going to do is we're going to like divide the class up into, right down here I think is okay, right? And we're going to build a pyramid, kind of like the one we had here. And so this group, try to select like one of yours. We don't have enough blocks for all 5 of every single group, but try to find one. And if you don't find it, we have some blank blocks over here where you can write it down. So you can write it on here and like put on a sticker like this. So why don't you guys come on up, and then you'll build yours here, and then this group will build yours over here, and let's go. All right. Thank you guys for doing that. And we really had a lot of fun with that on Saturday because some of these people had not met each other, and so there were some relationships built and things like that. So we're going to do a quick little role play here. I'm going to pretend to be an SDSU student. I am actually interviewing for a job with this amazing potential employer. This could be an internship. It could be the dream job when you're finished college. But I am here and I'm excited about the opportunity to interview with you, Dr. Gates. And you have a question for me?
Yeah, I see here on your resume that you took a class called Exploring Leadership. Can you tell me something that you took away from that class about leadership?
Thanks. Yeah, I was really fortunate to be in this class, and the SDSU experience was fantastic, and Exploring Leadership 205 was just great. We learned a ton of things. We learned about leaders in the past. We learned about ourselves, and then we had one session where we talked about heart-led leadership, and we learned that that's really a a philosophy or a belief system. And at the bottom of that belief system, like from the ground up, it's about your character and your character traits. And those character traits are like the foundation of this like leadership system or belief system, and it ties into your values. We learned like what values really mean about it's a belief system that what's important to you. It's also your standard of behavior. So yeah, it was a really neat class, and I learned a ton.
Right, you're hired.
Okay. Thank you. So that might sound pretty good, but like you practiced that 3 times, you got that, or you could probably do better. And I can guarantee you that type of question will most likely be asked in an interview. And why can I guarantee you that? Because I've conducted over 1,000 interviews in my day. 1,000. I went to like interview school to like how to conduct interviews. People will launch, their eyes will be drawn to this class, to the word leadership. They're going to ask you a question. You can be prepared, you can practice it, and you can nail that better than me. But thank you for the job, by the way. So that could happen like next week on an internship or anything. So some quick final thoughts, and then we're going to ask you to do a quick rating of us and this talk on a scale of 1 to 5 on that one little piece of paper. And if you want to add a word or two of for advice or what you thought about this session, feel free to do that. It's like the smallest survey of all time, even by form factor, and it's on a scale of 1 to 5. But before you do that, hang on, I want to just add my final thoughts. Remember at the beginning I talked about who are you and who do you want to become? How do you want to be remembered? That question, if you keep asking that to yourself and you keep reflecting and keep this QR code, keep these definitions of the character traits and dig into it and commit to that type of thinking, you'll just get better and better at who you are, what you want to become, how you're going to be remembered. You're going to embrace, hopefully, if you choose, a great leadership philosophy considered heart-led leadership, where you're authentic, you're caring, you're transparent, sincere. And if you dig in and you keep asking yourself, like, who am I? And what do I want to become? And you take that seriously and commit to it, not with a small c, but a capital C. You can do pretty much anything you want. So thank you for the opportunity. And and then we're going to do a picture for anyone who wants to volunteer. Not required. We're going to do a little photo in front of here. It's for my mom primarily. And we're going to do a little photo with the students here and in front of these awesome pyramids. And thank you for the opportunity to meet with you. Appreciate it. All right.